When the rest of the galaxy left humanity to rot, only the weak humans were left to answer the desperate call for aid against the Zorgoth invasion. Aaron Thomas sipped from his whiskey glass, the burn down his throat not enough to dull old memories. His gaze shifted to an Andorian sliding into the seat next to him, sleek blue feathers and beak mouth marking it as a male, Vortis, one of the few on the station still impressed by humans. "So you were there, weren't you?" the alien asked, "when your species saved us all?" Aaron rubbed his stubbled jaw. Most days he tried to forget that time. When Earth heard the distress signal, he'd been huddled in a shanty town outside Denver, more focused on his next meal than some grand space war. I was there. But whatever stories you've heard don't tell the half of it. When the Council begged for our help, humanity was broken. Our best and brightest killed each other in a war that left our world in ashes. The great human fleets, scrap metal. All that remained were dregs like me, the poor, the hungry, those the mighty deemed expendable. "But you still saved us," Vortis pressed. "You stopped the Zorgoth when no one else could." "For a price." Aaron drained his glass. "Buy me another, and maybe I'll tell you how a bunch of human refuse ended up as the galaxy's unlikely saviors, and how many we lost to give the Council back their pretty little peace." Vortis signaled for the bartender to bring another round. Aaron grunted his thanks and took a long pull from the fresh whiskey. It was a goddamn shit show, that's what happened. See, the Council sent the coordinates and we all crammed into these decommissioned freighters, rust buckets that hadn't flown in decades. I was squeezed in between a guy hacking up blood from the cancer eating his lungs and a woman who kept talking to people who weren't there. Real cream of the crop we were. Aaron shook his head, a wry chuckle escaping his lips. And the weapons they gave us, antiques. Guns so old they still used bullets. Some of them even had bayonets, for Christ's sake. It was like they raided a museum. He leaned back, his eyes unfocused as memories flooded back. When we finally reached the front lines, it was chaos. Ships exploding left and right, lasers and plasma filling the void. And there we were, a bunch of humans crammed into flying coffins, armed with pea shooters. Vortis' eyes were wide as saucers. "How did you even survive?" Aaron barked a laugh. "Survive? Shit, we did more than that. See, the Zorgoth, for all their advanced tech, had never fought humans before. They didn't know what crazy bastards we could be." He grinned, a fierce light in his eyes. "We rammed their ships, boarded them with nothing but guts and fury. We fought in the corridors, in the vents, in the goddamn engine rooms. We used our antique guns, our bayonets, our bare fucking hands. And you know what? They weren't ready for that. They weren't ready for the pure, unfiltered insanity that is humanity when its back is against the wall." Aaron chuckled darkly, taking another sip of his drink. "Oh, they were. Make no mistake, the Zorgoth were the toughest bastards I ever faced. They had technology that made our best weapons look like children's toys, and they fought with a ruthless efficiency that was downright terrifying." He leaned forward, his eyes intense. "But we had something they didn't. We had nothing to lose. We were the dregs of humanity, the ones society had cast aside. We had no homes to go back to, no families waiting for us. All we had was each other, and a burning desire to prove our worth." Heron's voice grew louder, drawing the attention of nearby patrons. "So we fought like demons. We used every dirty trick in the book, every underhanded tactic we could think of. We booby-trapped our own ships, sent suicide squads to take out their command centers, even used our own wounded as bait." He slammed his fist on the table, making Vortis jump. And it worked. Little by little, we started pushing them back. We retook outposts, liberated colonies, even managed to capture a few of their ships. It was like something out of a damn movie. Aaron's eyes grew distant, his voice softening. "But it came at a cost. We lost so many good people, brave people, people who deserved better than to die in some god-forsaken corner of the galaxy." He shook his head, draining the last of his whiskey. "But we kept fighting, we had to. Because we knew that if we failed, if the Zorgoth won, it would be the end of everything. Not just for humanity, but for every species in the galaxy." Vortis leaned back in his chair, his expression a mix of awe and horror. "I had no idea. The stories we heard, they made it sound so... Heroic? Aaron snorted. Yeah, well, war ain't heroic. It's ugly and it's brutal and it leaves scars that never heal. But sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it's the only way to protect what matters. He signaled for another drink, his eyes hardening. And that's what we did. We fought and we bled and we died, all to give the galaxy a chance. And in the end, against all odds, we won. Vortis shook his head in disbelief. But how did you finally defeat the Zorgoth? Aaron's eyes glazed over, lost in the haunting memories. The bar faded away, replaced by the acrid stench of burnt metal and charred flesh. Screams echoed in his ears, a cacophony of pain and despair that never truly left him. We were holed up in that base for weeks, fighting off wave after wave of Zorgoth attacks, he said, his voice low and grating. They just kept coming, no matter how many we killed. It was like they didn't care about their own losses. Aaron's hand trembled as he reached for his glass, the ice cubes clinking against the sides. We were running out of everything. Food, water, ammo. The medics were working around the clock, but there were just too many wounded, too many dying. He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing in his throat. That's when we came up with the plan. It was crazy, suicidal even, but it was the only way. Aaron's eyes snapped back to Vortis, a fierce intensity burning within them. We sent out a false distress signal, claiming our defenses were down, that we were ripe for the taking, and they fell for it, the bastards. His lip curled into a snarl. They swarmed the base, thousands of them, all eager to claim victory. But we were ready. We'd rigged every corridor, every room with explosives, and when they were all inside, we blew it. Aaron's fist clenched, the knuckles turning white. The blast was indescribable. It shook the very ground, sent shockwaves rippling through space, and when the dust settled, there was nothing left. No Zorgoth, no base, just a crater where our last stand had been. Vortis leaned forward, his voice a hushed whisper. But how did you survive if you were in the base when it exploded? A bitter laugh escaped Aaron's lips. I almost didn't. A piece of shrapnel tore through my chest, shredded my heart. I should have died there with the rest of them. His hand drifted to his chest, tracing the outline of a jagged scar. But the medics, they wouldn't let me go. They dragged me out, kept me alive long enough to get me to a stasis pod, and when I woke up I was... this. Aaron gestured to his body, a patchwork of flesh and metal. They rebuilt me piece by piece, replaced what they couldn't save with cybernetics, but they couldn't replace what I'd lost. My team, my friends. They were gone, and I was alone. As Aaron limped away, Vortis sat in stunned silence, his mind reeling from the incredible tale he'd just heard. The sacrifices, the losses, the sheer grit and determination of those forgotten humans. It was almost too much to comprehend. Suddenly, a commotion erupted at the bar entrance. Vortis whirled around to see a group of Zorgoth warriors burst in, their weapons drawn and ready. Patrons screamed in terror, diving for cover as tables overturned and glasses shattered. But Aaron merely sighed, turning to face the intruders with a weary resignation. I thought I smelled your stench, he growled, his hand drifting to the plasma pistol at his hip. The lead Zorgoth snarled, his fangs bared in a vicious grin. Aaron Thomas, you thought you could hide forever, but we finally found you. It's time to pay for what you did to our people. Aaron laughed, a harsh grating sound that held no mirth. Pay? I've already paid, you bastard. I paid with my leg, my friends, and my soul. But if you want a fight, I'll give you one. He drew his pistol in a blur of motion, his cybernetic enhancements whirring to life. The Zorgoth leader roared, charging forward with his warriors close behind. What followed was a brutal, bloody battle that seemed to shake the very foundations of the bar. Aaron fought with a ferocity that belied his age and injuries, his plasma pistol flashing as he took down Zorgoth after Zorgoth. His metal fists crushed bone and tore flesh, the enhancements giving him strength far beyond that of a normal human. But even with all his skill and cybernetics, Aaron was still just one man against a horde. A blast caught him in the chest, sending him crashing to the floor in a spray of blood and sparks. The Zorgoth leader stood over him, his weapon poised for the kill. But Aaron looked up at him, a defiant grin on his face despite the pain that racked his body. Go ahead, finish it. But know this, even if you kill me, you'll never defeat humanity. We'll always fight, always resist, no matter the odds. That's what makes us strong. The Zorgoth leader hesitated, then lowered his weapon. No, death is too good for you. I want you to live, to suffer, knowing that your sacrifice was in vain. The Zorgoth will rise again, and we will have our revenge. With that, the Zorgoth turned and marched out, leaving Aaron bleeding on the floor. Vortis rushed to his side, frantically calling for medical help. But as he cradled the old soldier's head, Aaron smiled, his eyes drifting shut. It's okay, kid, I'm ready. I've fought my fight and now it's up to others to carry on. Just promise me one thing. Never forget the sacrifices that were made, the lives that were lost. That's how we honor them. That's how we ensure their deaths weren't in vain. With those final words, Aaron Thomas, the last of the human heroes, breathed his last, his legacy etched forever in the annals of galactic history. If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, I liked the story, and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.